A lot of times, what I see psychologists and sex gurus spit out about sex and intimacy makes my blood boil. They strip a sexual experience down to conversation. I like this. I don't like that. Do it this way. Don't do it like that. And brand such conversation as erotic. The idea is that if you tell your partner what you want, firstly, you will get it. And secondly, you'll train your partner to be able to satisfy your sexual needs. I find this not only to be boring, but damaging to a sexual experience and a couple's sex life. Why? Because firstly, if you change for other people, you lose your sexual identity. Yes, we have sexual identities. You're listening to the Mistress Code. I'm Racy Wild. So to be clear in this discussion, I'm using the term sexual identity not to describe someone's sexual attraction. For example, being described as straight, gay, lesbian. But I'm using sexual identity to describe a person's sexual character and temperament, their desires, their function, their natural sexual instincts, their impulses, movements, sounds, and feeling. We establish this identity from a young age, our inner mind and instincts, our connection with our body and our experiences, personal, social, and intertextual. And when we are adults, yes, we can be influenced by experiences with partners. For example, someone might sexually identify as a swinger, and so they identify with all the acts and the environment and the people and the connections of being a swinger. Someone might identify as being a dominatrix and all the sexual acts associated with it, all the connections, things like power exchange. Someone also might sexually identify as being a virgin. Even after they've had sex, they might have this virginal perception of themselves and therefore act accordingly because they have this type of sexual identity. Having to feel like you have to do what your partner wants so you can get sex and intimacy starts to get tiresome after a while because your needs aren't being completely fulfilled. You're changing yourself for your partner to at least get some of your needs fulfilled. Sure, there are a lot of pleasure doms out there, but we are not talking about domination here. When you have to give up a lot of what you want to be with a partner, you are denying a part of your sexual identity. And when you can't be who you are, when you can't express yourself fully, you are literally being sexually oppressed. Now, logically, it can be argued that in a healthy relationship, both partners should be able to get what they want. And they do that by compromising and sacrificing for each other. It sounds like an oxymoron, right? Well, yes. In reality, when you have to compromise, no one gets everything what they want. Most will say, suck it up, this is just life. But this is the point against monogamy. For if you are unable to give or get things that you want, the things that you sexually identify with, because you have to sacrifice them to be with your partner, then this is going to take its toll on you, your sex life, and your relationship eventually. I've seen it over and over again. So if you have a partner that impedes on your sexual expression because they are prudish or borderline sexless, that is going to impact on your sexual identity. Sexual compatibility is vital before deciding to settle down with someone for the long term. You want a partner that will support and enhance your sexual identity, not someone that oppresses you. I have met so many men who put away their kink for a vanilla partner, and 20 years later, it bites them in the ass because they feel suffocated not being able to express their true sexual identity. The other thing, humans like variety, and we change. So it means the conversation, I like this, I don't like that, do it this way and do it like that, will also have to consistently change. Because as humans, especially women, do not want the same thing every single time. So in my opinion, continually business communicating, negotiation, and compromising, your sexual experiences can become mechanical to appease the communication. It's a killjoy. I find that a lot of psychologists and sex gurus treat sex like a business deal. Conversations, negotiations, sacrifices. Even during sex, a tit for tat. When sex becomes like this, it moves into the transactional side rather than staying on the sharing side. The sharing side of sex is the opposite of the transactional side. Rather than telling your partner what you want and expecting it, you share your sexual identity with your partner, your practices, your wants and desires. Of course, you have limits and boundaries, as you should also with transactional sex. But what sharing sex is about giving who you are so your partner can experience you, as opposed to your partner making you change to suit them. When you are both giving of yourselves, sharing yourselves and your sexual identities, that's when the magic happens. This is one of the allures of casual sex. Casual sex partners don't compromise because they don't know each other. They are not afraid of losing each other if they don't do what the other wants, and therefore they keep their sexual identity. Having sex with someone expressing their sexual identity is amazing and powerful. All this talk about conversations and negotiations come from the idea that basically women are not getting what they want in bed, that men have controlled the activities in the bedroom for forever, and now women should be able to say what they want. But the problem is, rather than teaching women to be active in the bedroom and in control of their own bodies and sexual experience, to master their own orgasm, psychologists and sex gurus are perpetuating that it is still the man that has the active control in the bedroom, the control of a woman's body and her sexual experience, and that he is the one that makes her orgasm. This is ridiculous. Women should be responsible for their own experiences and their own orgasms. Thinking that the man is responsible is sending us back 100 years. By now, women should be owning their sexual experiences, owning their bodies, and owning their orgasms. And the reason they are not is largely because psychologists and sex gurus are still telling them to communicate, to make the man do what they want. No, women should do for themselves what they want in bed and share their sexual identity with their partner. So women need to develop their sexual identity instead of relying on their partner to give them a sexual experience. Now, I'm certainly not saying don't communicate. You have to know your partner's limits and boundaries and also get their permissions. What I'm saying is stop stripping your partner of their sexual identity because of your own wants. Instead, accept your partner for who they sexually are and enjoy them for it. It's like how you travel to a new country, not to change the culture and the people, saying that they are doing it all wrong because it's not what you like, but for you to experience something new and to learn and grow and to appreciate the other country. That's what sharing your sexual identity is. But let's look at an example. Now, I love Esther Perel, but she is one of the ones who is branding boring sex conversation as erotic. In a recent Facebook poster, The Art of Erotic Communication, she lists some language to use, and I'm going to go through them, of course, giving my personal opinion. Now remember, this is from someone who has a strong sexual identity and a flourishing and thriving sex life. I am a very sexually active dominatrix who has many liaisons with casual partners. So, of course, my views are generally different from the average. So the first question on Esther Perel's The Art of Erotic Communication list is, do you like when I touch you like that? Okay, I would expect beginners at sex to ask this. If you are in an established relationship with at least a few years of sexual experience behind you, you are with the wrong person if you have to ask this question, and it seems like they wouldn't feel free to be with you if you have to ask this. It means you have no clue what the person likes, and they haven't given you a clue what they like in return. Each person should be responsive in a sexual encounter, both giving and receiving cues. Asking a question like this means that one or the other, or both, are not being receptive to each other during a sexual encounter. It can also mean you are insecure and need an ego boost. This is not erotic talk to me, but something an 18-year-old would say. Next, I want to come over there and kiss you. This is what I hear a lot from young men who are trying to be the big man on campus, but he's really just acting like a teenager. It sounds like a line from a Mormon college romance novel. It is about asking permission, yes, but in a very virginal way. It is also about not being able to read the room properly, but it is a line loaded with inaction. So many clueless men make statements like this and then do not take action. Sexy men could say this, but it is because they get up and make their way over and follow through. Seeing a man's decisive desire in action is thrilling, and also seeing a woman's, of course. I'm more hardcore than what this line delivers. However, it could possibly affect the virginal, wifey women. They will obviously talk about it to their friends as if it's going to be a proposal. But seriously, if a man said this to me, I would want his ID to check his age. Number 3, will you stroke my hair? This sounds a little creepy to me. I've got Hannibal Lecter flashes. Stuff like this is a setup for failure. When you do something because you are asked, they will likely want you to do it all the time. This is especially a problem if it is something that is not in your sexual identity to do, or that you don't particularly like doing it but feel obliged. If you do it at first, because you know you're sacrificing for your partner, and establish it as part of your couple's sexual identity, it means when you don't want to do it anymore, it can likely be interpreted as, you don't love me anymore. Yikes, right? Now, one could argue that you create your sexual identity with your partner. We know how wrong that can go. You need to own your own sexual identity. Why? Because you are the only one who will keep it for your whole life. When you merge into a coupleship, losing your personal identity, you and your partner are stunting your personal growth in favor of the coupleship. A coupleship might seem all romantic and desirable at the beginning, but after 20 years, when you realize you don't know who you are anymore, and then you begin to separate on a journey of rediscovering yourself again, that will include reclaiming your sexual identity from your coupleship. And I think that is one of the reasons for breakup and divorce. Though because it's not tangible as cheating or finances or abuse, and it's not a socially acceptable thing to break up over, it is rarely cited as a reason for a breakdown of a relationship. So, what would I do? A man will stroke my hair if it is part of his sexual identity to do so. And when he does, and I like it, because actually I might not like every partner doing it. It depends on the dynamic I have with a partner. He will see and feel my reaction of melting into him. This is an organic, intimate encounter that doesn't require communicating the hell out of it because we are adult enough to be receptive to each other. It is authentic and fluid intimacy. The next, can I show you what I really like? Now this is controversial because people know they like things because of their previous sexual experiences. So essentially, they are showing you something an ex-sexual partner has done to them before. They know they like it because they've experienced it. This fucks with people's brains. The amount of times a sub-man has asked me for a particular activity and I ask him why he likes it. They generally say because their last mistress used to do it to them and they really liked it. Particularly men like to relive sexual experiences they've already had, especially their firsts, because the experience was so intense and became printed in their mind as the ultimate. So quite often, sub-men, they try to find a domina who will help them relive that experience. This doesn't go down well for me. As a femdom, I want to have power, and becoming an enabler for a man to relive an experience he has already had with another woman is obviously ridiculous. This is part of the reason I'm an absolute dom. I create experiences with my sub, our own unique experiences. I don't rehash the memory of another woman. So asking, can I show you what I really like, is usually loaded with subtext and history and can be set up for failure because if you don't keep doing it the way they like, they will likely get annoyed and keep telling you to change back and redo it the same way. And if you don't, they will think that you don't care what they want. Geez. The next is, keep doing that. That's perfect. This exact phrasing is very unerotic to me, but I do like the meaning. Moans and groans are good as long as they are authentic. And if your partner is authentic, then you can trust their moans. However, a lot of women have developed the bad habit of inauthenticity. So much so that they even fool themselves. And really, keep doing that. That's perfect. Seems more like something you would say for a massage, not a sexual encounter. If used in sex, it seems more like a phrase to use when a woman has a hard time orgasming. She's making her partner do it, rather than making it easier on them both and being in control of her own orgasm. Seriously, when women think that it's their partner that is the one that is supposed to make them orgasm, the experience becomes a trial for them both, usually disappointing the woman, which makes her feel like it's all too much hassle, which then makes her want to avoid orgasming in the future. Just don't allow the situation to happen. Next is, that doesn't feel good. Try touching me like this. If a person becomes too hard a taskmaster, you want to give up. One of the reasons why it's hard to pleasure women is because they expect men to do all the pleasuring. Women don't realize that they are the ones in control over their own body. They need to stop expecting men to have control. We need to recondition women out of the bedroom patriarchy. Again, this line is using an experience they've had with someone else to correct their current partner. And getting more logical here, teaching your partner what you want and like means you're going to get it, whether you want it, like it, or not. You're going to keep on getting it because you have told your partner that it works for you. But women's bodies are forever changing. What works one day might not work another. So you're creating a never-ending cycle of frustration. What's more, you're limiting your partner and their sexual identity, and they can start to look elsewhere to get what they're missing. Seriously, if your sex requirements are too restricting or too limiting, expect your partner to be disappointed, bored, or wandering. Think of it this way. If you're only feeding your partner potatoes every day, and that's all you ever allow them to eat, sure, they might love eating potatoes, but they are going to want to sneak in some steak every now and then to keep themselves healthy and satisfied, but also entertained. The next one, I miss your touch. Boy, this is loaded. I always think these types of cues are very coercive. They're either making you feel like it's your fault you haven't been inspired to touch them, which not touching them could be valid for many reasons, but it can also make you feel like you have to touch them because they have passively aggressively asked. As you can see from my examples of authenticity and exploring other countries, I'm in the camp of rather than asking things from your partner, allow them to express their sexual identity naturally and inspire them to want to give of themselves by the way you treat them and by being an amazing person yourself. I understand that psychologists and sex gurus are giving basic information to inexperienced and the sexually clueless. The bare minimum default is communication. It's the letter of the law. But if you want an erotic sex life where you express your personal sexual identity and create magical experiences, you need to follow a higher sexual law: intuition, receptiveness, discernment, compassion, and sharing, developing your sexual qualities. You can only do this if you have a strong sexual identity and you have a strong sexual practice. The way to get the latter is by having as many quality sexual experiences as you can with as many different quality people to develop your competence. I get a lot of young men wanting to be with me. I choose the ones who want to learn and grow to gain sexual competence and who want to develop into better sexual partners, not just physically, but emotionally. A long time ago, I was in a position of mentorship. You can listen to the story in my video entitled How to Train Your Gentleman. And ever since then, I have enjoyed being a mentor, guide, and confidant to young men who want to have a fulfilling life, not just through sexual competence, but by becoming a better man.